Perhaps one of the biggest questions you might be asking yourself is, how do you create a great script? Well, we're going to talk about that and more. My name is James Martin, and welcome to Think Like a Writer. So at this point, you've probably already seen a few videos from the Think Like a Writer series, but now you're actually starting to write down your script. So how do you actually create a good script? What are the things and the tips and the essences that you need to remember? So number one, you have to understand the very first draft of your script is what's known as the vomit draft. The reason why it's called the vomit draft is you have to understand that your script is really going to be terrible. But what's great about writing that first draft is you're getting all your ideas out on your script, right? This is where your script begins to take life. It's not perfect, it's not done yet. It's going to need a lot of revisions and a lot more work done to it. And that's nothing to do with depending on the writer. Actually, if you're a really experienced writer and a really good writer, you're going to be doing loads of drafts because you're going to be fine-tuning bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. So just understand, if you wrote your first draft of your script and it's not up to par of what you were hoping for, don't worry, it happens with everyone. Just now that you've written the first script, give yourself some time, like set aside the project, go away, do something else to literally forget about the script, and then come back later and start making your changes. Okay, and then just keep working on it bit by bit by bit. Don't get scared of that vomit draft. The next thing to think about is, does your character's dialogue have a place and purpose? The part that really gets annoying to several different audiences is when a character says a line that just doesn't make sense. This is where you really got to put yourself in the mind of that character. Is it something that the character would say? What feels natural? What feels appropriate for that time, for that place, for the relationship, for that character's position, emotionally, physically, mentally, right? Make sure that everything has a purpose. The next thing you need to remember is, what is your character supposed to be doing? Okay, this is where, sometimes you might write a scene, a funny scene particularly, where your character goes off and does something a little bit funny. Well, is that really adding on to the story? Does it really help develop the character? Can you not just have the character do something that's already on the mission, already on their journey, and then just throw in a little bit of humor along the way, right? Sometimes your scenes don't need to go completely one way just for the sake of putting in dialogue or for the sake of putting in comedy or something else. Again, everything needs to have a purpose. If a scene is not accomplishing anything, then throw it out entirely. By the way, here's an extra tip, guys. Sometimes you might be writing either a few lines or a scene or a sequence, but you keep hitting this writer's block where you write up to a certain point, you want certain things to happen, and then you're trying to write more, but it's just not working. Or maybe you wrote scene A, scene B, C, wrote scene 1, scene 3, and now you're trying to write scene 2 to connect the two together, but you just can't get scene 2 to work. One of the best tips I've ever heard from a professional writer is, if something's not working in your script, get rid of it and start over. Really, and this has helped so much. This helps with editing, this helps with writing, this helps with all sorts of things. So if you're writing a scene and you want a scene to accomplish something in particular, and no matter how you write it, it just doesn't seem to work out, reset, erase that entire scene and start from scratch all over again. Not the entire story, but that one particular scene, and just figure out another way to tell the story. Eventually, you're going to find a way that's going to feel smooth. It's when you try and fix something that you're emotionally attached to, typically it does not work. Next is to make sure that everything that happens in your story, as far as the places and the events, also have a purpose. If it's random, your audience isn't going to connect. Same with your character's dialogue. If your character says something that they're not supposed to say, then your audience is not going to feel connected to your characters. It's best to make sure that each event, each step that your characters take on their journey is only progressing the story. It's only progressing the characters even more. If it's not, if the characters or the events is either stable or even taking a step back, your audience is going to completely disconnect and be bored and come out of the movie. All right, you really want to make sure the characters is constantly going along, so make sure everything is constantly progressing the story along. And then my final tip for you guys is to write until you can't write anymore. And you know what, guys? You're going to keep writing for forever if that's what you're really going to end up doing. Okay, there's going to be a fine time where you got to look at your script and say, you know what, this is good enough. Again, starting from that first draft, that vomit draft, you go through it and you kind of ask yourself, okay, what's working, what's not working? If it's not working, change it. You write the second draft, go back to it again, take a look. Okay, what's working, what's not working? Anything that you want to fix, make the changes. You keep doing this again, again. You're gonna be editing so much and rewriting things to the point where as you're editing your script, get to the point where maybe you're replacing one word, or you're adding one word over here, or you're cutting out this one word over here. If it's like really minute details, then at that point you can pretty much just move on, okay? Because at that point, you know, at least you can give some room to your actors, some room to your director. You know, if you're the director or if you've got actors, they can give in their input. Do they prefer that one word or something else, okay? But if it gets to the point where you're writing until you're looking at the script and it's like, I can't think of anything else to do, the characters are doing what they're supposed to do, the scenes are progressing, the dialogue sounds really good, then great, move on. That's how you know your script is good. So I hope this helps, guys. This is a great way to make sure that your scripts look really good and are appropriate for the story. I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I hope you join me for the next episode in my Think Like a Writer series. My name is James Martin, and I hope to see you next time.